Gossip Girl fans know Ed Westwick as billionaire playboy Chuck Bass, but now he's taking on the classics and is starring in Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, opening in theaters tomorrow. And Ed is joining us this morning from Los Angeles. Good morning, Ed. Morning. So, Ed, this new version of Romeo and Juliet is written by Downton Abbey creator Julian Fellowes. Does it stay pretty true to the story and the text that we're familiar with from William Shakespeare?
Well, yeah, it does. I mean, look, it ends up in the same place. I think what Julian's done is he's adapted some of the verse, and there are some different scenes. But I think it works to our advantage that it freshens it up. It certainly gives it a little bit of new atmosphere. And I think with adapting the language, it makes it a bit more accessible. Without losing any of the meaning or any of the passion or any of the poetry that was in the original text. So, I was very, very intrigued when I heard that was how this project was going to go ahead. That Julian was, rewriting it, and it was going to be an adaptation. And of course, you're always going to have people who are going to say, "Oh, you should never mess with the original work," but I think it's good to ruffle a few feathers, and I think it's good to bring this new, freshened version to audiences.
Right. Well, as you said, you want to make it accessible. So how do you think this is going to appeal to a younger, more contemporary audience?
Well, as I say, but through the adaptation of the language and through making it a bit more accessible, I think, we don't scare away people who might, just struggle with the language. I mean, I struggle with it myself. I mean, it is the original verse is 600 years old. As we stray further and further away from that time period and from using Old English language, we're going to struggle with the understanding and breaking it down. So, through adapting it, through making it a bit more contemporary, we're bringing these people in. We're not saying we're not excluding anyone. We're allowing people to experience and enjoy one of the, if not the greatest love story of all time.
Yeah, absolutely. And, making it accessible, I think, is great because you're right. A lot of people just instantly are resistant to Shakespeare. So now you play Juliet's cousin, the hot-headed Tybalt. What attracted you to that role specifically?
For some reason, I'd always, been intrigued by that role whenever kind of watching the play. I feel like there's a lot of background which you don't really know to Tybalt. So as an actor, I found it really interesting to try and construct that. I mean, you don't have any insight into what happened to Tybalt's parents or where they were. He's kind of ran by his, governed by his uncle, Lord Capulet. So I found it interesting, kind of adding a bit of backstory there, and what his parents might have done. And also I found it interesting because for me he was somebody who was perhaps confused and out of place in what was a very changing time in Italy during the start of the Renaissance, when there was a huge shift towards business and kind of backing away from perhaps a more kind of battled mind approach to things. So I felt like it was a very interesting character to play with, and obviously he's a huge catalyst with regard to the events that are set in motion after with the battles between the Montagues and the Capulets.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, of course, a timeless love story. Very excited to see this new adaptation of Romeo and Juliet. I'm always excited to see new Shakespeare. So, Ed, thank you for your time this morning, and best of luck on the film and on your future endeavors. We know you're a very busy actor, so thank you.
Thank you very much.